The Home Mortgage Law Show is a paid program and is intended as a resource guide for education, information, and entertainment purposes and is not intended to provide specific legal advice. The information that you hear should not be used as a substitute for competent legal advice from a professional attorney. Hiring of an attorney is an important decision which should not be based on advertising or the information that you hear today.
Listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show, brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. Attorneys Will Morris, Shay DuPont, Michelle Hanash, George Fajardo, Director of Loss Mitigation, and our special guest, Attorney Ziona Kopelovic. And we are about to embark on our Rocky segment.
Bring it on, George. Bring it on.
Well, as you know, each and every single week I try to outdo the type of results that we got the previous week, and the reason
you have to have a free house for somebody who keeps getting these good results.
Yeah, and so this week, what I like about this particular case is honestly how smoothly everything went, and it had a lot to do with how well Chris followed our instructions. Welcome to the show, Chris. How are you this afternoon?
Good afternoon.
Hi, Chris.
Hello, Shay.
Chris.
Hi. Thanks so much for joining us on a Saturday.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, we really appreciate it. Give us a little bit of background.
Okay, well, Chris retained the firm in September of last year. Okay. He's got a mortgage with Wells Fargo. Ew. He was current at the time when he came to the initial consultation and was just looking for some advice. So why don't you take us back to that time, or even before you decided to schedule that 1-hour consultation with the firm, Chris, and tell us what led up to your decision to go ahead and actually seek out some assistance.
Well, I was upside down on my property, and I was looking for a way of, either lowering my payments or principal, looking at something to make it feasible for me to stay here in my home. So I went to Wells Fargo and spoke to them, and they really didn't want to work with me. And I heard you guys on the radio a few times, so I figured I'd hire some knowledge in my corner.
Excellent. And so take us back to that initial consultation. What was your impression at the time?
Very professional and, a sincere, showing that you guys, wanted to help the people that didn't know what was really going on and not as knowledgeable as the lenders that have all the lawyers and experience on their side.
Well, unfortunately, it really does take about an hour to actually sit down with someone to gather the information. We actually probably asked a lot of questions and, sit down and actually make some calculations to figure out whether or not, number one, we think you can qualify for a loan modification, because if you come in seeking a loan modification and we really don't think we can qualify you, I know when I do consultations and I don't think I can qualify someone, I'll sit with them and spend the rest of the hour actually giving them tips on how to try to submit an application on their own. But some people don't qualify. There's a window of people that can, and some people have insufficient income. Some people have too much income, but it's like Goldilocks, and it's got to be just right. So fortunately, Chris had numbers that worked out where we thought you would qualify for a loan modification.
Yeah, and everything seemed great. All the different options, possibilities, they were brought to the surface, and the guidance was great. What I could expect, and just the process of what to do, what to follow. So I didn't fill out a form, incorrectly and mess the whole thing up. So just the guidance of making sure that everything was done. And following that was, priceless.
Now, George, you did mention that Chris was current at the time that he came and met with us.
Yes, Chris was current at the time when he came in for the consultation. And so, Chris, how difficult did you find following the instructions to do the rolling 30, as it were? Did you find that difficult at all?
No, just following the instructions of what we were supposed to do, and just to make sure that we didn't mess up, paying the late fee, and, just following the procedure so, we didn't get in trouble, so we could find a way to, modify our loan.
And given Wells Fargo's unwillingness to help Chris out initially before he even came to us, that was one of the main reasons, was the fact that he was current at the time. And so what we're talking about is the strategy that we call a rolling 30, by where you skip a month payment, and on the following month, sometime around the 10th or the 15th of the month, you go ahead and you make that previous month's payment along with the late fee, so that the lender will go ahead and accept that payment, and you continue doing so moving forward from that point on, while we negotiate the loan modification simultaneously.
Yeah, that's correct. Just following the following the instructions and advice from you guys was great.
I always feel bad when someone comes in and they say that they've tried over the past 2 years to get a loan modification, and then I ask that question, "Are you current?" And they say, "Yeah, I'm current. I know I don't. You don't have to be past due in order to get a loan modification." I'm like, "Well, yes, that is what the home affordable, guidelines say. You do not have to be past due in order to qualify for loan modification. But if you want to greatly increase your chances of getting that qualifying for a loan modification, you really do have to be at least that 30 days past due." So we got Chris to a point where he was doing the rolling 30 days past due, George.
And like I said initially, I mean, what I like about Chris's case is it was a fairly smooth process. Chris retained us in September of 2012, and September 6th to be exact. And by December 17th, we already had the approval for the initial 3-month trial period. And the reason it took 4 months is that we actually had to sit on standby for that first 30 days before we could submit the loan modification. And as we discussed, as part of the strategy, I mean, we have it down to clockwork, down to the actual day. What day you're going to make the payment, what day are we going to submit the package and start the negotiations process. And again, Chris followed our instructions to the T, which made it a lot easier for us, in addition to the fact that he always provided all the documentation in a very timely manner.
And so how long did it take before we got a trial modification for you, Chris?
I started my trial in December, make my first payment in January, and that went through May, I believe.
Wow, that was fast. That is really fast. Congratulations, George. That's a fast trial mod. From October, basically, submitting, because you have to wait for that rolling 30 to start, so you couldn't submit before October.
Exactly.
And you got him into a trial modification starting in December.
Yeah. And so, I want to go into some of these numbers. Before the loan modification, Chris, and correct me if I'm wrong, your payment was $3,189 a month, which included your principal and interest. To that, you had an additional escrow amount of just over $1,100. So your overall payment was over $4,300 a month, $4,352 to be exact, each and every single month before the loan modification, which was a result of an interest rate of 6.5% on a 30-year note.
Oh, Chris, I would be in the same boat as you. I'd be looking at some relief there. 6.5 and a
huge.
Yeah, $4,352. The principal balance was $433,000, which coincidentally is the current market value of the property. The current market value of the property is somewhere around $436, so he was right at break even.
So has the value of your property been going up, Chris?
Slowly. It might have went up maybe 9% last year, but it hasn't gone up significant.
Yeah.
And so as a result of the loan modification, okay, what the lender agreed to do was to reduce the interest rate. And we'll get into those results when we come back after the break.
Oh, you always do that to us, George.
Do that.
Hold on, Chris.
You're listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show, brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. 800-974-2712. That's the number for a free consultation. Do it while we go to break. 1-800-974-2712. The results on our Rocky segment right after this on the Home Mortgage Law Show. You're listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show, brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. Attorneys Will Morris, Shay DuPont, Michelle Hanash, George Fajardo, Director of our Loss Mitigation, and Ziona Kopilovich. And we have our Rocky segment, our special guest, Chris.
And before the break, I was about to get into the amazing results we got in Chris's loan modification. But to give you a little recap, Chris came to us in September of last year. By December, we already had the approval with a considerable payment reduction. It was a very smooth process. Chris followed our instructions to the T, which made it very, very easy for us. And as a result, here's what we got for him. He had an interest rate at 6.5%, and we got the lender to agree to reduce that interest rate from 6.5 down to 2.375.
Nice.
Incredible.
Very nice.
Yes, and as a result of that, that caused the payment to be reduced by over 24%, by a total of $1,050 a month.
That's huge. Chris, congratulations. That's a huge, over $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year you get to save.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
great. Yep.
Must be so much easier to either write that check or make that payment online when you see it goes from $4,300 to $3,300.
Oh, definitely. Just that's a huge, huge difference. And he said, I don't think I would have been able to do it without following the process, and I would have never been able to do it by myself, especially in that amount of time.
Bravo, George. So what's the end result here?
Well, the best part about it is that, as I initially mentioned, the property value relative to the principal balance was at break even. So he didn't have negative equity to speak of, but part of the reason the payment was reduced by such a large amount is because the lender agreed to also defer over $16,000 to the principal balance. So now the interest-bearing principal balance is $417,000, which is actually below the market value of the property.
Oh, so people, you have to understand that even if you think that you do not have enough income to qualify for a loan modification, lenders will be creative. In Chris's case, they actually deferred, meaning they put some of the principal of Chris's mortgage off to the side and made it non-interest bearing so that the interest bearing part of Chris's mortgage would result in a payment that was at or below 31% of Chris's gross monthly income.
Yeah, and what's also great is that they kept the same maturity date in this case. So they were able to reduce the payment by over $1,000 without having to extend the loan back out to 30 years. They kept the same maturity date, which is 23 years from now.
So even just lowering the interest rate on a mortgage, even without a deferment, but even just lowering the interest rate from that 6.5 down to 2.375 on a mortgage like this can result in $1,000 a month savings. That's absolutely incredible, Chris. Great for Mother's Day. You have that much more money to spend on your wife.
Thanks so much, and she'll really appreciate it. I definitely couldn't have done it with all her help, and you guys too.
You're very kind.
Well, very good result there, George. Nicely done. Very nice. Very nice.
Chris, thank you so much for spending time on a Saturday sharing your story with the listeners, because I know some of them call in, they're frustrated. They've been trying to get a loan modification on their own. What advice can you give them?
Well, I made the step. I called in. I couldn't be happier with the results, and you guys are for real, and it doesn't cost anything to go and see you guys, so go and make the call.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I
Chris.
second
Thank you.
that. I second that. Well, enjoy your Saturday and enjoy Mother's Day with the family.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Bye.
Couldn't have said it better
There you go.
myself.
I know, right?
Take advantage. It's free. It doesn't cost anything to call the office, make that appointment, schedule that free consultation. Maybe you'll be our next Rocky segment, but think about it. Chris made a phone call. He tried to get a loan modification on his own. He called the law firm of Morris DuPont. He met with us in September. Not even a year later, he's got a payment that's reduced $1,000 a month for the next 23 years. Unbelievable result. Congratulations to the whole loss mitigation department, especially loan modification. George, another great result for another client.
It was a great team effort.
Always. Always a team effort at Morris DuPont. You can't do it alone, folks. It's very, very difficult. We've got professionals that are doing it. We want to talk next to Michelle Hanash because we've also got a bankruptcy department, and we've got the lovely Ziona Kopolovich in today, who is our bankruptcy counsel in the Tampa Bay area. Hi, nice to see you, Ziona.
It is so good to be here. I haven't seen you in such a long time. I love Miami, and I love Morris DuPont.
Oh, you're very kind. Michelle, what's going on over there in the bankruptcy department?
Well, today I want to talk about a subject that unfortunately I think a good amount of our listeners might have to face, and that is a emergency bankruptcy filing because of a looming foreclosure sale. An emergency bankruptcy filing is what we tend to refer to when there is literally a foreclosure sale that's just about to happen and someone goes out and files their own bankruptcy petition to stop the sale.
What? Files their own bankruptcy petition?
Right. Well, the reason that happens is because when someone files a bankruptcy petition, an automatic stay goes into effect, and that automatic stay gives that filer protection from collection against themselves and their property, and it stops even foreclosure sales, generally speaking. So on the eve of a foreclosure sale, someone might find themselves facing a foreclosure, obviously not knowing what to do, and going and filing their own bankruptcy petition, never having met with an attorney or obviously hired an attorney, and being completely unaware of the pitfalls that can await them.
Well, I hope that's not any listener of the Home Mortgage Law Show, because
should know better. We've been saying that for years.
We emphasize so much on being proactive. If you are in default, if you have a foreclosure action filed against you, you have to get competent legal counsel. But maybe one of the listeners has a friend that doesn't listen to the show that might be facing this. So even if it's on the eve of a foreclosure sale, you could file a petition for bankruptcy. And why would someone do it on their own and not seek legal counsel?
You know, I think the reason that someone would do that is simply because they haven't gone to speak with an attorney. Maybe they're afraid. Maybe they didn't have an attorney in the foreclosure case to begin with, and they've never hired an attorney before. Maybe they're hopeful at their final summary judgment hearing things will go their way and aren't prepared to deal with the fact that their house might actually go up for a sale. They just haven't faced that fact yet. And the best thing you can do is, if you are in a foreclosure, if you do know that you have a sale pending or a summary judgment coming up from hearing, before you get to that hearing, you've at least met with a bankruptcy attorney to review your options, to know if that's what you want to do, and to have things prepared so that you can properly file a petition. This past week, I actually had someone come to me who wanted to schedule an appointment. They had filed their own bankruptcy. And so I looked up their case and found out, lo and behold, they were about to get dismissed and they had no idea what was going on. And that's because you can stop a foreclosure with a very simple 3-page petition, but very soon thereafter, there are many documents that are required to be filed, and if not, your case will be dismissed. And once your case is dismissed, you're back there in the foreclosure. And worse than that, if you're in South Florida, it's possible that once your case is dismissed, you might not be able to file again for another 6 months.
Oh, that's
And at
not
that
good.
point, we're really jeopardizing
Yes,
the
in the interim, the bank goes back and gets a new sale date, and the property goes for sale.
Exactly. So it's very important that you know what you're doing when you file that bankruptcy petition. In this case, I was able to get the clients in there quickly, and we were able to get the proper documents filed to prevent the dismissal, but I'm certain that had they not come in, their case would have been dismissed and they would have had no idea what had happened.
So what I'm hearing, you're telling me that are we ready for a
We
break
have
now?
like 15 seconds.
Okay, that the major pitfall is that when people think that they're going to stop the foreclosure sale by the filing of a bankruptcy, it does stop the foreclosure sale, but it doesn't give them the kind of bang for their buck that they think it would give them. Because if they don't follow through and follow the right documents, that bankruptcy gets dismissed and the foreclosure sale goes on.
800-974-2712. That's the number to call for a free consult with the law offices of Morris DuPont. 800-974-2712. More of the Home Mortgage Law Show right after this. You're listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show, brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. Attorneys Shay DuPont, Will Morris, Michelle Hanash, our bankruptcy attorney, George Fajardo, director of loss mitigation, and Ziona Kopelovich, who is joining us today.
And Michelle, you were basically telling us how people go out and perform open heart surgery on themselves.
Yeah, as one of our bankruptcy judges here in the Southern District says, you can remove your own spleen, but I wouldn't recommend it.
That's basically what you're talking about. People who are filing bankruptcy petitions on their own.
Without knowing what they have to do to prevent dismissal of their case and to actually save their homes from being sold at a foreclosure sale.
Do you think that people think that hiring a bankruptcy attorney is expensive or something?
I assume that might be one of the reasons they're not going out there. And in response to that, I would have to say that bankruptcy fees are regulated by the court.
And
they're extremely reasonable.
Yeah.
And if an attorney is going to charge anything other than what's allowed by the court, they literally have to go in front of the judge and explain why they have to charge extra. So bankruptcy fees are very reasonable. I'm sure they're less than what you're thinking if you're not sure
less
what they are.
than one mortgage payment, probably.
And more than that, they're really worth it. If it saves your home, it's a very minimal price to pay. So we spoke about how one pitfall is not knowing all the required documents you have to file in a timely manner to prevent your case from being dismissed. Another pitfall, potentially, is not taking a consumer credit counseling class before filing the petition. That's an example of a requirement that if you're filing your own bankruptcy petition, you probably don't know about. And that's an issue I saw in the case of the people who came to file their bankruptcy or continue their bankruptcy with me after they filed their own petition.
Now, does it make it more difficult for you to sort of clean up the petition and right whatever wrongs that they created? Is it more difficult for you if they've filed previously on their own?
I would absolutely say yes. It's more complicated because not only are you doing things correctly, you have to go back and fix what has been done improperly. In this case, your case can be dismissed because you did not take this class, which you can take online, over the phone, in person. There's many ways to take it, and you risk dismissal because you haven't taken it, although there are exceptions for exigent circumstances. So in some cases, that might be something an attorney cannot fix for you after the fact if you've gone ahead and filed your bankruptcy.
Right.
So that's why it's very important to be working with someone who knows what they're doing and to try and plan ahead as much as possible, because the bankruptcy judge is not going to excuse you from a requirement because you didn't know about it.
So if someone comes in to see you and they've done, as the example you used, and they've already filed their own petition, give us an estimate if you can. How much time do you think they would have had it before their case was dismissed because they hadn't, dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's?
I would say on average it's 10 days from the date of filing the petition that you have to fix most issues. Not giving a complete list of your creditors or a list of your creditors, you can actually be dismissed prior to 10 days. So aside from that requirement, it's about 10 days to file the remaining schedules and statements.
And they risk not being able to file another foreclosure action for 6 months.
Another bankruptcy. In South Florida,
foreclosure.
In South Florida, the standard dismissal is with 180 days prejudice. So you'd have to file another case in the bankruptcy court and then ask the court to lessen that 6-month window to allow you to go forward with the bankruptcy. And then there's other complications or other work that has to be done because you had a subsequent filing. So it's something, if you can, you want to do it right the first time, and you really want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to protect your home. Now, the other issue I've seen just this past week was when I was in bankruptcy court, I saw 2 ladies who had filed bankruptcy petitions not with an attorney but had gone to a non-attorney filer. One went to an agency that told her they could help her save her home by filing a bankruptcy petition. The other went to what's referred to as a non-attorney bankruptcy petition preparer. And in
like
both,
a paralegal or something? I don't get it.
maybe if she's lucky, I don't even know.
Well, how come that isn't practicing law without a license?
I don't know. I was just thinking the exact
there,
same thing.
There is a place on the petition where a non-attorney preparer is supposed to be listed if you've had help. In this case, I maybe they didn't want to claim this work, but they certainly were not listed in the petition. In the one hand, the lady who hired the agency that claimed they could help her save her home from foreclosure paid about this exact same she would have to an actual bankruptcy attorney. This agency filed the petition and nothing else. And she was in there because she was about to get dismissed. And the judge, once hearing her story, let her know she had been taken advantage of. And she had about a week and a half to get everything fixed, meaning she is probably lost the money she's paid initially to this agency that was supposed to help her, and now really needs to go out and hire an attorney to get her case fixed. Same with the other lady who had a non-attorney file maybe a petition or help her file a petition and didn't explain to her any of the other documents that she had to file in the case.
Oh, I don't like to hear that. It's like, remember when we had all the loan modification scammers and all that? It's the same thing, but this is allowed.
Well, you're allowed to have someone help you prepare the petition, but what these people did is absolutely, especially in the agency case, not allowed. And the money they took just to file a petition or help her file a petition and do nothing else, this is not okay with this bankruptcy petition preparer and this agency did. And the takeaway from that is you need to be very careful if you're thinking about filing a bankruptcy petition and to really go seek an attorney, not a non-attorney who claims that they can help you in the bankruptcy process.
Please don't do it yourself.
And doing it yourself, you really risk ending up in a worse place than you would have had you filed nothing at all.
Right.
You know, that person that came in to see you this past week who had filed on their own and then realized, well, wait a minute, this is a little too complicated. I really do need an attorney, and came and saw you. Think about it. She did it to save her home, and yet she would have been discharged within 10 days. Now, if she had gone, and great, maybe within that 10 days, the sale date was scheduled, and so she got the sale date canceled. Right. But after the 10 days and she has her bankruptcy discharge, if she then goes back, because the court's going to set a new sale date, and it's going to be within the 6 months, if she goes back to that judge and begs for another delay, and the judge sees that she filed a bankruptcy petition and it got discharged.
Just to stop the sale?
Just to stop the sale.
Right.
Exactly. A judge would look so unfavorably on that. There's no way. I don't think that she would be able to get a postponement of a second sale date. And since the bankruptcy court wouldn't allow her to file the bankruptcy petition,
she's hurt herself.
Everything that she was, her whole goal, everything that she was trying to achieve,
backfired.
Absolutely backfired on her.
And in her case, the bankruptcy is an amazing tool for her. It's the best thing she could have asked for. We're actually going to be paying off in the time she's in the bankruptcy her entire mortgage debt. When she comes out of the bankruptcy, she's going to own her home free and clear, where the bank was not willing to negotiate with her for a loan modification outside of the bankruptcy and was just pushing for the sale.
Well, thank goodness she found you. Thank goodness you were able to help her and get that cleaned up. I know we've got a call. We're going to switch for a few minutes and take a call.
All right, Charlie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Charlie.
Hey, Charlie, the plumber from sunny Augusta, Florida, ladies. How y'all doing?
Hey, we're doing good. What can we do for you today?
Yeah, I was just multitasking over here. I was giving myself a root canal and a hernia operation as we speak.
Then you might as well file your own bankruptcy while you're at it.
And remove the spleen, too.
Hey, my question is, if I were to get a loan modification with Freddie or Fannie, those great government institutions, and I got a 6.75% interest rate, you know what? They're going to keep it there. They will not drop it. Now, if a new administrator comes in to run that organization, and he's all for the interest rates dropping, is this something I can do retroactive to what I have if I sign these papers?
So let me understand you correctly, Charlie. You have a loan modification offer on the table right now?
Correct. It's 6.75%, which is the current interest rate. First of all, my mortgage was Countryside. Then they sold it to that great
Bank of America. I'm going to answer that question, but we've got to take a break, so I'm going to let you keep operating on your spleen, and we'll get right back with you.
You're listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show. It's brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. 800-974-2712. 1-800-974-2712. Much more of Charlie coming up right after this. You're listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show, brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. Attorneys Will Morris, Shay DuPont, Michelle Hanash, George Fajardo, Director of Loss Mitigation, and our special guest today, Ziona Kapilovic. Our phone lines are open. We had Charlie. We lost you, Charlie. Please call back. 866-610-6397.
I think the surgery took a turn.
He botched the surgery. That's what happened.
866-610-NEWS, AT&T Wireless customer star 610.
Yeah, I'm afraid he took me literally. But we were talking to Charlie, and Charlie had a loan modification offer from his lender. He has, I think it was a Fannie or a Freddie. It wasn't one or the other. Let's say it was a Fannie. And the offer was at the interest rate that he currently has, which is 6.75. So how is that a loan modification, George?
Well, that's the thing. If I had to guess, number one, I would say that his original payment was already at or below 31% of his gross household income. And number two, the only benefit I could see in that would be if he was already past due when he applied for the loan modification and the loan was essentially reinstated.
Yeah, so that's basically what they're doing is they're reinstating, right? Do we have Charlie back on the call?
Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
This is Charlie the plumber from sunny Odessa, Florida, folks.
Love it, Charlie. Hey, wait a minute. You're from Odessa?
From Odessa, yes.
I got
Odessa.
our
Just
bankruptcy
like driving
attorney.
by.
Our bankruptcy attorney is from Odessa. Ziona, isn't that where you're from?
I absolutely live in Odessa. Hi, Charlie. You must be a neighbor.
Hey, we're neighbors. Hey, if you need a plumber, call CharlieThePlumber.com.
Now you know who to call the next time something
Charlie the
happens
plumber,
with
Charlie the
plumbing.
surgeon.
Yeah.
Or hernia.
I do hernia operations on the side.
Yeah, please don't call me to perform an operation.
Ziona, but your offices are in Newport Richey and Lakeland.
That is correct.
And, of course, you meet our Morris DuPont clients over in our
Down-
St. Pete and Tampa office.
That's right. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, you can. You can try. So, Charlie, we were trying to talk about your case. You have a Fannie Mae loan?
Yes, I believe that's who it's with, and it's actually going through Ceteris, but they work for the Fannie Mae. They're the ones that are writing it up.
Yep.
But it's actually, they said it's through Fannie Mae.
Ceteris only services Fannie Mae loans. So if you have Ceteris giving you your mortgage statement, you know that you've probably got a Fannie Mae loan. So you went past due some amount of time?
Well, yes, because I was trying to get Bank of America to work with me, and let me tell you what, they wouldn't do nothing. Bank of America, I was livid. I went in there half a dozen times, and they were the most unfriendly. They would not do anything. They would not give me the time of day.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you had that experience with Bank of America, but it's not uncommon. But you did said, I go in there, meaning you were walking into a brick and mortar's actual Bank of America bank requesting help on your mortgage?
Yes, I was trying to find who to talk to. I did that. I did that several times. I was making phone calls. Nobody would call me back. And it's like, I really was very, very disappointed, to say the least.
Well, it's a hard experience to go through, but I do want to give our listeners a couple of tips. Number one, don't be thinking that brick and mortar's bank has anything whatsoever to do with the mortgage servicing company that is servicing your mortgage. They are two very distinct entities. And I've got people that tell me, well, I was doing a loan mod and the lender asked for some more documents. And I mean, I walked those documents right into the bank and they took those documents and still they said they lost them. I said, well, you might as well have just put those documents in at Kinko's because it has the same effect. The brick and mortars bank has nothing to do with the mortgage servicing company that has the same name. So Bank of America, the the brick and mortars bank, has nothing to do with Bank of America, the servicing company that was servicing your note. You're not going to get their attention unless you're actually submitting a loan modification application. No one's going to help you. No one's going to give you tips on how to do it right. You've got to know how to do it. Remember, they really don't want to do it. It's just that the federal government is forcing them to give you a loan modification if you qualify. And they won't even tell you what the qualifiers are. We will. That's why people schedule their consultation with Morris DuPont. We let them know whether we think they can qualify. So you got an offer from Fannie. So somehow you actually got it right. And you obviously seem like a guy that would persevere. So you got an offer for a loan modification after you were how many months past due?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. My brother-in-law says he talked to somebody, and the guy says, well, they didn't do nothing. They wouldn't even talk to me until I was 6 months behind. So that's what I did. I stopped making payments for a while until I got their attention. And then that's how I started getting a little bit of help.
Okay. And so you were about maybe at least 3 months past due. And
Correct.
And you got a loan modification offer that didn't change your interest rate?
That's correct, because from my understanding is that Fannie and Freddie do not lower. Now they'll extend it for 20, 30 years, but they do not do anything with the interest rate, which is appalling, because mine's at 6.75%. Now everybody else is getting 3%, 2.75. Like if I got 3%, I could save a lot of money every month. But now, if somebody comes into let's say whoever's running the Freddie and Fannie, the director, I heard there's going to be a new one coming into office real soon, and that he is actually willing to possibly do that for the people that have those type of loans. Now, the current administrator, from what my understanding is, he says, no, we're not going to do anything with interest rate. Is that true?
You're absolutely right, but a little bit off in that Edward DeMarco, who is the current acting director of the Federal Housing Finance Authority, does not allow for principal reductions as part of a loan modification when it's a Fannie Freddie loan. So what you're talking about two different elements. He doesn't allow for principal reductions, but there's no ban on reducing the interest rate. And George, you know that Fannie and Freddie actually do lower the interest rates. We see them on the loan modifications that we get our clients all the time. In fact, I had a very long conversation with a senior loan modification consultant at Fannie Freddie just 2 weeks ago, and I asked her, okay, so what is your typical loan mod going out right now? And she said it was around 4%, and they were extending out to 30, and if necessary, they were extending out to 40 years. But they were actually doing loan modifications where they kept the term the same and were lowering it to around 4%. So if your lender is keeping you at the 6.75, I agree with you, George, that they're not giving them a loan mod. They're basically reinstating the loan.
Exactly. Now, my other question would be, did they actually extend the term of your loan while keeping the same interest rate?
Yeah, they want to extend it to the year 2053, and I'll be like almost 90 years old. Yeah,
another 40 years. So how much is your payment, the new payment being reduced?
Well, it's going to be in the neighborhood of, it's being reduced by probably $200-300 a month.
And are you self-employed, Charlie?
Correct. Yes, I am.
So did you submit profit and loss statements as part of your loan modification application?
Correct. Yes, I did.
You know what, Charlie? We're going to have to go off the air in a few minutes, and I don't want to lose this opportunity to offer to speak to you on Monday. I'm happy to look at the loan modification offer, and I'm happy to look at the actual application that you sent in to see if we can't fine-tune it a little better and get you a better result. Maybe we can't, but it's determined by what the amount of the gross monthly income that you submitted. If the lender already has you paying a monthly housing expense that's already below 31%, they're just going to reinstate. However, if we can show that they did not properly calculate and they should have given you a better loan modification offer, we might be able to appeal that decision. So I'm happy to just review what you have in front of you. Maybe there's nothing we can do, maybe there is, but let's make that decision before you sign off on that paperwork and make it final.
Brilliant. I appreciate that.
All right.
Thank
You just
very
call
much.
me at the office at 800
800
974
974
2712.
2712.
All righty.
Hey, you guys are great Americans. God bless you, and I really appreciate your show.
Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate you listening to the show.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. I want to thank Chris, who was our Rocky segment today, a satisfied client at the law firm of Morris DuPont who agreed to take time out of his Saturday to share his story. He got a $1,000 reduction in his monthly mortgage payment from the great work that the loss mitigation department at Morris DuPont did. Ziona Kopolovich coming and meeting with us, our bankruptcy attorney over there in the Tampa Bay area, handling Morris DuPont clients over there in the Tampa Bay area. Ziona, always a pleasure to see you.
Well, it is a pleasure to see you guys too here in Miami, and it's a pleasure to see the clients and help them in Tampa.
You've been listening to the Home Mortgage Law Show, brought to you by the law offices of Morris DuPont. 1-800-974-2712. We're going off the air right now, but the phone lines, they're still being answered. 800-974-2712. The Home Mortgage Law Show. We'll see you next Saturday.